The Other Side is back with a special edition, and we're talking school district problems. We have two concerned parents, Greg Rossum and Dan McLaughlin. We're looking for your telephone calls. Stay tuned. The Other Side, my name's Paul Fournier. I have special guests tonight, Greg Rossum, Dan McLaughlin, concerned parents. Concerned parents about a concerned school district. So we might as well just jump right into it. We've got an awful lot to talk about. We've only got an hour to talk about it. So why don't you just give us a little background on yourself and where you stand here real quick.
Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Greg Rossum. I've been a Spencer resident ever since I've been married. My son is a high school senior, and my issues strictly are contained within Show Choir, an organization that in their first year exceeded anybody's expectations and then literally was just made defunct by an alleged investigation into matters. So my stance here is for those kids, and that's what I believe.
Dan?
My name's Dan McLaughlin. Father of three boys in the school system, and originally I wanted to come on and talk about what I feel is the biggest problem in the education in this town is the kids leaving. And there's so many, I mean, we'll go over the numbers, but I think it's a huge problem for this town. So many kids leaving, and in the last month or so, things have escalated quite a bit, so obviously we'll cover most of that.
All right, well, let's get right into that. Let's think about that for a second. You brought it up. Kids are leaving. They've been doing that since 2008.
True.
Do you think there's a history of why they're doing that?
I think there's obviously a lot of reasons that go into it, but I think most of it is just lack of faith in the schools, particularly Prouty.
Do you think it's particularly leadership that's driving these kids away?
Honestly, I can't answer that because I don't know. I think there's a bad reputation for Prouty, and people don't want to send their kids there. And now it's trickling down to the elementary schools, and Knox Trail, you're seeing more and more kids leave there too. I mean, my son has kids almost every week, it seems, are leaving.
For me personally, I have two boys, and my oldest, after he graduated Knox Trail, he went to Holy Name for a year, and by all accomplishments, he flourished, but he felt he wasn't challenged. He comes back his sophomore year solely for the music program, and he comes here and he flourishes there. Now,
well, let's go back to challenge. Are you talking challenged academically at Holy Name, or challenged with the show choir stuff at Holy Name, or did he do that kind of stuff there? Or
Holy Name doesn't have a show choir. They have a large concert band, and I think the number when John performed in that was over 85 members, and every instrument you can imagine, including an electric bass guitar and at least 3 electric guitars. He went through the motions at Holy Name. As far as I was concerned, he wasn't really happy. He knew there were other opportunities for him. Music is his life. He loves music. He kills it on the saxophone. He's a great performer. He sings wonderfully. He's a member of the National Honor Societies for music and performance. But also, my younger son had an opportunity to get into Bay Path. And he took that opportunity, and that is a better fit for him. So, I've got one coming back saying, hey, I'm coming back for the music, and I've got one that's leaving because there's a better fit. But now, my oldest's senior year has become nothing but heartbreak and disappointment as far as I'm concerned.
And you're talking about because of this investigation and the lack of the show choir and...
Yes, I mean, we're talking about an organization that started halfway through his sophomore year. Went through dress rehearsals, practices, practices. Comes out in their junior year, and they just literally floor it from the moment that they start the hunger fundraiser that they have here, and they keep working and they keep working, and they've got the concerts, and you can see that there's a lot of talent here. They go to their first show at Shepherd Hill, they knock it out of the park, and everybody's like, oh, they're impressive, they're very good, they're a first year, they showed up. Little did they know they win it going away. They go to the next one, they win that one. They go to the next one, they win that one. They go to the next one, they win that one. They achieve medals, they win trophies. They even have the honor of singing at the State House. That, in and of itself, so last year is like the dream year. All of a sudden, come this year, it's nothing but a nightmare. Nothing but a nightmare. The kids can't perform. They sing in class, but, there's nothing for competition for them. Right now, they're 6 weeks away from their first competition, and they can't have the coach, the advisor that they want because of this investigation.
Has any of the parents made any contact with the school committee or anybody to find out where this investigation stands, or why cannot Mrs. Boussier come back?
Well, in my opinion, and what I believe I know, is Mrs. Boussier can't come back because it's an open investigation.
Okay.
And we're getting the Stonewall, it's an open investigation.
Why is it still an open investigation at this point?
I have no idea.
I'm going to guess, and being on the school committee, the way things usually work is if something like this pops up and it gets into the lawyer's hands and it goes from internal, which is basically where this started, to possible criminal allegations or criminal proceedings, or however they want to term it, it has to go to the next level up.
Right.
And as soon as it goes to a next level up, school committee members are bound. So isn't any administrator or the Dr. Crow. She can't talk about any of that kind of stuff because it's a personnel issue, especially if it's an open investigation. Now, if it was already closed, it wouldn't be a problem. They'd be able to talk about it, but because it's gone up the
then you
ladder,
can just seal
but it could.
records,
But we
just like
see
Dr.
you and I don't know if it's gone to, the inspector general or ethics or attorney general or anything like that.
But
We
wouldn't
don't know.
those departments be able to at least confirm that it was an investigation on their end? I mean, as far as we know, it hasn't gone.
They could probably say yes or no, but they don't have to talk about it.
That's
Yeah.
fine. But to at least acknowledge that it's going to the next level. I mean, it's been stalled out for how many months now?
Well, that's the funny thing. I mean, we've been aware of this since August, and we had our first rally as soon as we found out about it. Some people were calling us the mob. It was support the music program. People came in support of the other of Chuck Fahey, who has also been relieved of any extra.
Well, everybody saw the report. I read it. It was done in public session. Everybody talked about it.
So what more is there to
There had to be.
ascertain at
Well,
this point?
like I said, there's been let's go back to Mr. Fahey for a second.
And I don't
I
don't pretend to understand the inner workings of this
Right.
and how it goes, but like I said, it just seems at this point
Well-
that it's stalled out,
well,
and
what we'll
that
do-
this
we'll-
will be dragged out for another
we'll
6
leave,
months.
We'll leave the names and stuff out of it because
Obviously.
okay. But some of this started from a school committee member a few years ago who was looking for gate receipts for the football games. That's where a lot of this started from.
Yes.
Right.
And it's my understanding that at one point, who we have in there now he's not a business manager, but a comptroller, saw some funny transactions, and that's what launched this whole thing forward.
But I thought a lot of that had to do with student accounts, though, was it Maple Street or Lake Street?
Well,
I thought was the catalyst for all this.
the Lake Street one was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and then I
And
thought
from
it was
what I
after
and from
that
what I
that it was
understand,
wrong.
a couple
and
of
I could be wrong.
And from what I understand, there were certain guidelines and policies put in place.
Yes,
Okay, now
2013.
whether or not those have been followed, I have no idea. And the only information that I have is that the school committee put in new policy concerning revolving accounts or any of those student activity funds or anything like that. So they were to be used specifically for activities for the kids.
But was it not reported, and I could actually quote it, was it also not reported in the audit that the school committee themselves and the superintendent's office did not follow protocol, just as these people under investigation did not follow protocol?
That I don't know. Somehow these invoices and checks got
They got processed. They got
processed
cut.
some way. Normally it would go from whoever's asking or looking for the money or the invoices to be paid. Normally it would go to the principal, and then the principal would bring it to the blue building, and there's like about a 4-point check, I think.
But wasn't part of the problem also that, the money used from student activities accounts was to pay for stuff that should have been included in the school budgets anyways, that the student activity accounts never should have had to fund in the first place? Wasn't
Well,
that
the-
also one of the results of the audit?
The problem was it wasn't being used for student activities. That's the problem.
Right, but the auditor
Yes,
also
but-
stated, in my opinion, what I understood him to say was, we don't have the proper accounting in place for all of these procedures and processes. So basically, there were 2 accounts from what I understood the night the auditor came and presented his findings. One is just the general account, one's the student activities fund account. He examined 95 transactions over a 2-year period, found almost 90 of them to be incorrect from what I understand. The problem is, and here's my example. You want to check. You need something, okay? I tell you how to do it, okay? You present it to me, okay? Then I move it to you, you move it up. Then it comes back down, here's your check, and thank you very much, all the approvals are there. Well, what's happening here, in my estimation, is the fact that the person who made the initial request, and I'm speaking only for show choir here, okay, is being railroaded because maybe the accounting was a little bit off, but there are 3 people that could have said, no, you can't do this, and you didn't. If you're complicit in it, we got a problem. If you didn't know about it, then you don't know how to do your job.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, that is the problem that I see. I mean, and I hate to use the term double standard here, but if it was a sports program that was absolutely cut, eliminated altogether because of an investigation, do you not think that it would even be a bigger uproar than it is now? You're talking about the largest extracurricular activity at David Prouty. Between the performers, the band, the tech, the advisors, they have more participants than any individual sport.
It's possible, but I think given the success of the show choir program, it stands out just as much as if it was a sports program.
Well, I mean, and I will say this, they tried to make an appeasement out of it all. And from what I gather, there was an offer made. The offer was that Becky, Mrs. Boussier, would be allowed to coach the kids in school. But when they go to performances and outside participation, there would be another person to coach them. Now, for me, and I really hope you get a chuckle out of this, that's like letting Bill Belichick coach you in practice and letting a first-year coach you in the games. It won't translate because she knows what's going on. This person only thinks and won't.
So they had the opportunity for somebody to come in and take over the program on a partial basis, is what you're
Right.
saying.
To represent them at competitions.
Okay.
Correct. But
And the kids turned that down?
of course they did. They love Mrs. Boussier. I mean, they're there. I mean, I don't know if you were there on November 17th. The whole show choir literally was there.
I was not,
Okay.
but I did see it.
Okay, the placards that started in August, most of the show choir, the past couple of days, the Tuesday after the sit-in, the Wednesday and the Thursday, they're out there standing in front of Route 9 on the grass, of course, not on the road, and they're showing their support. They love this person. This person has sacrificed more than any cost can be put on it.
Well, especially too when you tell these kids that, hey, you know what, you lose your coach, your teacher, because of a technicality. Really is what we're talking about. Because
that's what it is.
I mean, they can hint around criminal investigations all they want, but shouldn't that have happened by now?
I would say that it would.
Again, it goes back to the only thing I can tell you from being on a school committee and how this process works is that somewhere this investigation is still going on and it's in the hands of somebody else. And it has to be either the Attorney General's looking at it or, you know.
On a district-wide level, who's in charge of that investigation? Is it the entire school committee? Is it the superintendent? On the local level, who leads the charge on this investigation?
Well, I think what happens is it gets started probably by somebody on the school committee, or actually probably even it could even be started by the superintendent, if she or even the comptroller. If they find something that is not, you know, is against what the policy is, or if they see checks being written for certain things that they shouldn't be written for out of those accounts, they have every right to go in and take a look at it and see who's doing that and proceed as how they see fit. Now, to bring in a special investigator or audit, I guess, is really what they did. Listen, this district has been a mess for years, an absolute mess.
I don't think anybody can argue that.
It's been pillaged. It's been left by the wayside. There's been no reinvestment in it. It's things continue to go on as normal, and things you probably wouldn't see in other school districts. And I don't know if it's just because people get comfortable in their own skin and there's nobody ever there to follow up. All right. Now, I'm not saying anybody's guilty, and I'm not saying anybody is not guilty.
Not guilty.
Okay. I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. You don't know what happened.
No.
All we get is 50% of the story.
No, but all we can talk about is what's
all we can talk
currently
about
going on.
is what's currently going on. That's correct.
Right.
And it's a slippery slope when it comes to this kind of stuff. It really is.
Oh, agreed.
You know?
Very, very much so. I mean, show choir is my axe to grind, but there's still plenty wrong at David Prouty.
No question. I mean, it's like look
Well,
at the
I don't want to pigeonhole David Prouty. We're talking 4 schools here. We're talking an entire district.
Oh, exactly, and that was my point that I was going to make. Is that, you know, what happened last week at the high school was great. You know, the students took the right course of action, in my opinion, and they got the results that they were looking for, and great for them. I'm so happy.
It's funny that you mention that because, in one hand, you've got a bunch of parents saying, "Oh, that was great, congratulations, and that's fantastic," and then the next day, you have some of the same parents stabbing the kid in the back because, "Oh, you just got bathroom stalls, you got doors put on your bathroom stalls." It took a lot of guts for the kids, those 7 kids, to go into that office.
It did,
and
because they're fighting.
It took a lot. You know what? It took a lot of guts to gather enough of those kids to sit right in the gym and say, "All right, we've had enough."
Well, they're fighting a fight that they shouldn't have to fight. High school kids should not have to be doing an all-day sit-in just to get the basic necessities that they should have. I mean, how many other school districts around here has that ever happened?
I don't disagree.
And let me put it to you this way, Carter Bemis, I am sorry for, being the one voice the night you wrote your wonderful statement on Facebook, for being the fly in the ointment. Love you, kid. I've known you for forever. I've coached you in baseball, and I've seen you grow up. I was one of those people that expected miracles to happen when the 7 went to go see Dr. Crow. Now remember, Dr. Crow told the 7, "You can come in, but we're not going to have an adult with you." What? Excuse me, what? I mean, one of the parents finally was able to go in, one of the parents of the 7. Just to make sure. And I mean, there's a lot of hearsay and innuendo
Yeah, but the problem
about
is that parent, whoever that parent was, I have no idea who it was. People are going to jump on that person no matter what. I mean, I think there was talk of, that person's an anti-union person, so of course Dr. Crow wanted them in the meeting.
Oh, I think that's a different subject.
Yeah, very much. so.
That's that's the advisory council, student advisory
Okay,
council.
yes, I'm sorry, but I
We'll
thought it
get
was
to
a-
that. That's a different subject.
That is, but you know, whoever the parent was that was picked to go
Yeah.
into that meeting was
Parent of
kind
one
of
of
in
the
a no-win situation
Exactly. And-
because you can't go in and raise holy hell and say give these kids what they deserve, and at the
Right.
same time you can't roll over for every single thing and say, oh, okay.
I mean,
All right. Can we agree at least they made progress?
I will say that being able to talk to Dr. Crow was a positive step.
All right. Is there a concession that the show choir could come up with as far as Mrs. Boussier is concerned and this interim teacher? Is there something that they
I
that
have
they
a
can
wonderful,
do?
I have a wonderful idea, but I don't think anybody ever go for it. There is, in my opinion, again.
And I believe this person was from Assumption, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was wasn't it somebody from a
I don't know the
Yeah, I'm
the
pretty sure.
skill set of the person or anything else. You know, it's like any coach that you have. You get the idiosyncrasies down and everything else. Why go a step back? If you were dead last and couldn't put two dance steps together, yeah, bring in somebody else. But these kids were in sync. They were tight. They were everything and then some. Okay. My plan is, as far as I'm concerned, there is enough wrong to go around on this situation where we should all sit down, hammer it out, and let's get everybody back. Let's get these kids back to what they do and what they enjoy and what they do best. A lot of them aren't going to have this opportunity after this year, and they want their senior yearbook statement to say the year it was because somebody took it away from us.
No matter what, their senior year is going to be tainted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're
There's no
right.
way around
Yeah,
it.
but I think one of the adults that, one of the parents of that group, you saw what the sit-in did at
Yeah.
the gym. I think one of the parents, let's get the show choir back up and running. Even if there's an interim that comes in, let's,
If
some
an
way,
interim comes in, I would tell
some-
you the show choir will not perform.
well, then it's.
Shouldn't they maybe? I'm not asking them to fully
Just
cave
make,
in, but
we're
you
not,
gotta-
just make a concession. Let's get the thing back up and running and let's get at least one positive thing. Let's let their voices be heard through song and not just silence.
Isn't something better than nothing?
Yes, but the results from last year speak for themselves, and there was nowhere to go but up. They were going to actually move up in division to a higher division where fairly established show choirs, 5, 10, 15, 20
But
years have been in
the
the program.
problem is, we're stuck. We're at a stone wall.
Exactly.
Okay, and something has to give.
Unless
One way, shape, or
unless
form.
the
Sports is still
investigation
going
is
on.
dropped.
Right.
We have an interim athletic director.
It's not interim, he's AD. He can't be interim and compete in MIAA athletics from what I
Well, then
understand.
he's the AD.
Right.
Okay, and the former athletic director is doing his stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so let's, like I said before, let the voices be heard. Let's get this thing up and running. You know, let the voices be heard rather than just those kids sit in silence because it's not fair to them.
How exactly are the voices supposed to be heard, though?
Let them
I've been
sing. Let them come to some type of amicable agreement. I don't like it any more than you guys. Okay, I don't like the fact that one of the best things that we had in our school district is sitting on the wayside. Okay, rotting away. And instead of continuing to let it rot, let's pick it up. Let's pick it up. Let's move it. Maybe Mrs. Boussier and whoever this person is can talk, and you know, maybe this person it feels bad for Mrs. Boussier and is willing to work with her in some way, shape, or form, and let's get them out. Let's get them out. Let's get them to these competitions. Why not?
You know, much as I like to, and I'm not going to speak for the show choir. I mean,
ultimately it's their decision.
it is their decision. You know, and I mean, you're talking about an organization that was pretty much self-sufficient. Their own fundraisers, parents giving the money. You know, they didn't ask for much from the school committee. If they did, it's minuscule compared to some of the other things that came out in the auditor's report. According to according to what I believe, one of the things that really baffles me, and one of the other organizations that were mentioned in the audit spent greater than $3,000 for something that only
A select group can use?
only a select group can use. A very talented select group can use. But it doesn't go to anybody else. Well, yeah, that's a misuse of the student funds, according to the auditor. But did that person get put under investigation? Did that person get suspended? Did that group get eliminated? No, no, and no. You know, and, you know, I hate to just keep hemming and hawing on the show choir. It's my passion with my son. I want him to do well. You know, yes, there are a lot of other problems that go on in the school. I mean, let's talk about the AP books that the kids still don't have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know.
I can't follow the. I can't follow the direction of that. I'm not sure if the books were ordered. I'm not sure if the former principal ordered them and they didn't get ordered, or we don't have the money for them, or I can't even follow. I can't even follow the path that that's going down.
Well, here's my understanding from somebody in the know. The request was made last year, and I believe the figure was somewhere between $18,000 to $20,000 they asked for.
I thought the number I saw was 20.
Yeah, why not, Aaron? Let's go back to the show choir real quick. How quick can you have it up?
27,000.
Listen, Aaron's got a clip of the show choir.
Okay.
So we'll. Okay. So it's not Prouty, but it's an example of a show choir. So people realize what's going on, what a show choir is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron, roll that. So obviously it's more than just a chorus.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's choreographed well. It's, you know, to hear Mrs. B say it. It's about motion, movement, enunciation. I mean, you slur your words and you get penalized for it. I mean, I don't know how the scoring works, and I'm glad I don't do it, but you can still win a competition and only achieve a silver medal. I don't know how that works, but
Well, this is. I don't like the situation that it's in, and the only way to press forward is and to really kind of gain some momentum is let these kids back out and let them sing. Make a concession, come to the table, say, hey, this is what we want to do. We're sick of sitting on the sidelines. Let's get this done. Do it for Mrs. B. Instead of using her as the excuse not to do it for her.
you know, I'd love to see it, but you know, I mean, you're talking about a group of passionate kids who put an online petition out there. Got over 1,600 signatures in less than a week.
But I'm telling you, that because it's stalled, it's up to upper levels, and that's where it's going to stay until some way, shape, or form you get a clarification of what's going on.
At one school committee meeting, one of the members of the show choir tried to speak and presented the school committee with over 30 letters from the show choir.
It's not going to. I appreciate that. I mean, that's
Right.
awesome that they did that. But if it's out of the school committee's hand, they can't do anything about it. That's the problem.
Is it really?
If it's gone up to another level, if the
They should be able to
if
at
the
least
district
comment.
lawyer said, hey, there may be money stolen, okay, this needs to go up to another level. If he takes that investigation and brings it up to the next level, like to the Attorney General or ethics or anything like that, that's where it is. It's there. It is now their decision on whether there's enough. if there's enough to go forward where they have to prosecute somebody or something like that. That's where it's sitting.
So correct me if I'm wrong, because what I heard from the auditor, although he mentioned that 87 of 95 transactions didn't comply with Massachusetts general law.
And that was only 2 years. You
That was
went
only
back
2 year
years.
time period, yes. If I'm not mistaken, didn't he also say money wasn't stolen, but what it was used improperly. It was used against Massachusetts. It wasn't like somebody pocketed
It
funds.
was misappropriated.
Right. But, you know,
But we don't know what that misappropriation is. There could have
Agreed.
been, I don't know. What if a cell phone bill was paid? We don't know. We don't know what the transactions are. I mean, that's a stretch. But I'm just saying, what if it was something
Yeah,
like that?
but all right, here's an example. I'm sure
And it's
many.
but it's very clear. Student activity funds are supposed to be for activities for the students.
Yes, okay,
Period.
but here's an example, okay? I'm sure many people out there have read the Turtle Boy Sports article dealing with the Spencer school system. And at one point, they address it in the article that when the lawyers from the audit spoke to Ms. Bussiere, that one of the things in question was a pizza party for the kids. And the lawyers asked her, "Did you have a piece of pizza when you were at that party?" And she said, "Yeah, I think I did." Now that money was supposed to be spent on strictly for pizza for the kids. Now she had a single piece of pizza. That crossed the line. That's a violation right there. Those are the kinds of things we're talking about. We're not talking about theft of money, money that went disappearing, like you said, paying phone bills and things like that. These are minor infractions at best.
Listen, if I had the answer, I'd be more than, I'd be
No, I
more than
know.
happy. And we
Right.
don't. We only know 50% of the story.
Well, and that's the problem, is that the school committee doesn't feel that they need to discuss any of this with the public, and not just the music program, lots of other things that they don't feel they have to share with the public.
and
How much money has been spent on this audit and this whole legal process involving the athletic director and the music director?
I don't know.
I've seen estimates as 250,000, some higher than that.
and you take.
Now, you're telling me that money wouldn't be better off spent
Listen,
on a laundry
absolutely.
list of things that need to be fixed?
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, like I said,
But yet, go back to that audit, and they also found about $200,000 that was supposedly buried. In other words, what happened is they had overpaid a vendor, or I don't even know if it was a real vendor, and it was sitting there. See, this all goes back to years and years of abuse. This goes back to, a superintendent years ago, and this is when I first got involved, and I went to 5 budget meetings in a row, and it started out as we're going to lose 17 teachers, to one of the budget meetings was, well, we're going to have to eliminate all the extracurricular activities if we don't get an override. And lo and behold, we didn't lose anything.
right.
Okay, it's a total lack of trust. That's really where a lot of this comes down to, and it's us versus them mentality. I'm telling you, when I got on a school committee, it was an eye-opening experience that I have never ever seen in my
Yes,
entire
but
life.
this current school committee right now has said, their plan was, we're going to be the school committee that fixes the problems with the school department. I haven't seen one, I don't know if that's a good way to say it, but what positive change has there been in the last year?
Listen, everybody that gets elected to the school committee has. You might as well just go ahead and take that out of your pocket.
No. I know. Sorry.
Everybody that gets elected or decides to run for the school committee has best intentions. I had the best intentions.
Right.
Okay. Unfortunately, you don't know what happens behind that door. You can't babysit. You can't babysit a.
But who's running what's behind that door? Currently, I'm not.
We have been so since 2008. We've had Ralph Hicks, right?
Right.
And then we had Reza Naiman.
Yep.
And then we had Deb Zablocki, and then we had Ted Malvey, and now we had in Dr. Crow.
Yep.
So in 7 years, we've had 5 superintendents.
Just for a clarification, does Dr. Naiman, does his contract still get paid to him?
No,
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was correct.
no. But we've got no stability. And that was one of the things. I don't know if you guys ever went to the report. There was the state came in and did this report over, I forget how many week periods, 3 or 4 weeks, maybe longer. And then they came into the auditorium and they stood there and promptly gave us this laundry list of things that was wrong with the district. And I raised my hand and I said, hey, thanks for letting us know everything that's wrong. I said, did you bring your checkbook to help pay for it? And they just kind of looked at each other like deer in the headlights and giggled. We get that all the time. And there was actually a thing about technology that was brought up. And like we've got no technology in this district.
Right.
It's
And that's one of the reasons why kids are leaving here. That's one of the reasons.
I agree.
But when I brought up that fact to these people, they compared us to the country of Finland. Finland doesn't have any. They don't have computers. They don't have any technology. They have one of the best education systems in the world. And I said, really? When was the last time they put somebody in the moon with a slide ruler? When was the last time they created? When was the last time they created something that flew into the atmosphere and flew back by itself? So I don't want to hear that crap. Okay. Technology. This is your kids are probably better on their phones than you are.
Yeah.
Without question.
Shut that thing off and tell them you're busy.
Smash it.
All right?
There we go.
So that's the show choir is just one problem. The lack of stability is another problem in the district. The lack of reinvestment for years, and you can go back to when they built Wire Village.
Yeah.
You know, we had 6 schools in
Sorry
the
about
district.
that.
6 schools.
Back
Yeah.
when West Main Street was still open.
You know, well, you go back to Lake Street, Maple Street, David Prouty, Wire Village.
Yep.
West
Street.
Knox,
Street.
and
And
East
East
Brookfield.
Brookfield.
That's six schools in this district for, what, 2,000 kids, if we even have that now? Okay, so when Wyatt Village was built, or when they were talking about building Wyatt Village, and this is the part that drives me nuts, because people can't see the future past the end of their nose. There was never any plan saying, hey, you know what, we've got 2 schools that are getting pretty old. We had one school, Maple Street should have been closed years ago, never mind 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And Lake Street was on its way out as well. And the vision should have been, let's build Wyatt Village big enough so we can do pre-K through 6, and then we're done. We have one brand new school. We don't have to worry about it anymore. Nope, got to build 4, 5, and 6, or whatever it was, 3, 4, and 5, or whatever the heck it was there for a little while.
Right.
And that's part of the problem in this district. It's a lack of vision past, it's broke, we got to fix it now.
Agreed. I mean, David Prouty, I mean, I know we talked about this before. You said structurally it's a very sound building, which you can't argue with, but anybody that's walked through there has seen pictures from there. It's ridiculous. No kid should have to go to school there.
I agree. And when we were looking at doing the high school renovation, we had a tour of places that I hadn't gone through in the high school, and it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I got 2 kids in the district. You know, I want to see them go through this, and trust me, there's great teachers, because my kids have had absolutely awesome teachers. Right from pre-K, right. My son's in 6th grade, and I don't have any problems
with that at all.
You know, but it's the infrastructure, and it's the infighting, and it's cat fights, and it's, you know, you're this and you're that. That whole thing on Facebook, and just the going back and forth is just absolutely ridiculous. We're not going to get anywhere in any way, shape, or form if we continue to go down that same path. Agreed. And it's an us versus them mentality. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I don't know how you fix it. That's why I said get the show choir on board. Let's use that as a springboard. Let's get them to do something. Put on a show. You know, do it themselves. Let's get a show on.
Get a show
right in the high school.
Get outside the parameters of the school altogether, and you know, don't say, hey, you're David Prouty Shockwave anymore. Get them to perform. You know, let Miss B show you what she can do with it all. You know, hold it at town hall. Hold it somewhere. Get these people proud again, because you saw what we saw before on TV with what show choir does. These kids, just looking at that video, these kids at David Prouty are a lot better than what we saw. A lot better. And I mean, from the soloists to the people that just sing in the group to the choreography. I mean, it's amazing how hard these kids
But
work.
people are stuck on Dr. Crow going to China. It was June 20th. She was leaving to go to China. Okay, she was leaving to go to China on June 20th.
All right.
Does it matter one way or the other if school goes?
Yes, it does, I think. I
Well,
really
I
think
mean,
it does.
As,
Because all right, what is the other reason? What possible reason could there be for cutting the school year short? You're not talking about just like
She wasn't cutting it short. All she wanted to do was have the kids get out on a Friday instead of coming back for Monday, Tuesday.
and not add those hours to other days before the end of the school year.
What was going to happen, and this is according to my source.
Okay.
Okay. Just like Turtle Boy's source. This was according to my source. What she had gone back and asked was to tack on, because we had so many snow days. We had 2 extra snow days. That's why we had to go that Monday, Tuesday. 1 hour, a half an hour. I'm not sure exactly what it was. Tacked on, and then we could have got out on June 19th rather than June 23rd.
Yes, but the excuse given was that it was because of the closing of Lake Street School. What did that have to do with anything with cutting the school year short?
According to what my source said, that was what she was going to use, absolutely, because it was a hardship.
That she was going to use.
That was-
but what
it
was
was-
the real reason?
It was a hardship. The real reason was the snow days. The real reason was we had 2 extra days of snow. So
Yeah.
she really wanted to get the kids out. And this is somebody telling me,
But
not
wouldn't you say the appearance of it, at the very least, which, I mean, I try to keep an open mind, but with Dr. Crow, I mean, it.
well.
I
Again,
don't
we
think- I don't
don't.
think
Again,
somebody's
we don't.
word is
we,
good
we
enough.
don't know what actually transpired as far as the conversation was concerned, because Dr. Crow would have had to have gone to Mr. James and approached him with this idea first. The union would have to have, because in their contract, it is, 180 days. Administrators are more than that. It's 183 or 185 for teachers. I forget exactly what it is. So it would have to go to approval first before anything like that could happen.
Exactly.
So,
And
and you would know because you're in a union. So
Yes.
it would have to go for you would have to go and say, hey, this is. She would have had to have gone and said, hey, listen, we've got 2 extra snow days. Can we add an extra half hour or an hour? I don't know what
well, let's face
transpired.
it, don't you think that's how it got public? Was because it had to go through the union?
It could
That
be.
it just came out the other day?
It could be. I don't know.
I mean, but like I said, I think it's just the appearance of the fact that, she wanted to end the school year early. That's not in question. She wanted to do it. She filed with the state to get it from 180 days to 178 days. That is a fact.
But
they
I-
have
I-
pictures of the paperwork.
Yes, but
online.
hours wise, it would have
Yes.
been the equivalent of 180 days.
Right. I mean, that's what I read.
So you're adding. Did they go to school?
But has that ever been done before?
I'm sure it has.
I mean, June 23rd really isn't that late. I mean, not later than it has been any other year. And yes, we did have a ton of snow days last year, no question about it.
All I can tell you is what my source said, and all she wanted to do. And this is third party, so I wasn't present. I don't know if this is how it was presented. I was told that rather than come back for 2 days of school, let's just get out Friday and call it a day. And then the teachers could have gone in on Monday. I think they have a wrap up. That's why
Yeah.
they 185 days or something. Then they could go in and get that done, and then the following weekend was the start of 4th of July weekend.
But like I said, I still have a hard time believing. Then why would you use Lake Street closing as the reason?
From what I was told, it was presented as an additional hardship on top of the snow days. That's all I was told.
Okay.
So,
But like I said, it's the appearance of something being wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of that to go around the school committee and the superintendent's office, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I posted on social media got a bunch of response and got one person to make a comment that I felt was, after I read it, I felt a little uncomfortable about it. I got a phone call from a school committee member who was mentioned by initials only. And we spoke for 45 minutes. And what I got out of the conversation is, you'll never know what we know. They wanted to meet for coffee and discuss it. My opinion in that was they wanted me to sit down in a chair, twiddle my thumbs, and just jam things down my throat. You know, one of the things they also mentioned is, we could make changes if you want to. Well, I have a wonderful idea of who would be a great replacement. And I know we're not going there. But, you know, this conversation came out of the blue on a private phone call that, you know, I don't know why I answered it. I was on vacation, but I said, what the heck? And, you know, I spent 45 minutes with this person, and there are moments when I don't like this person at all. I respect this person, but doesn't mean I have to like him. And what they kept telling me was, what you don't know, you'll never know. And it was like, enlighten us. Oh, we can't. It's an open investigation. And I'm sorry, but, you know, don't tell me that you want to have a cup of coffee with me and decide you're going to treat me like how these kids are being treated when you don't want to expand on it. So I just passed this person off and said, you know what, talk to somebody else because I'm not interested.
Well, there are there's things I can't still talk about.
Right.
You can request, you know, if you want to request executive session minutes, you can do that. Mm-hmm. You know, chances are they'll probably be blanked out. There won't be any names on it, but you could get the gist, especially if they're approved. If you want to, it may be a little bit of a circus to try and get them, but you can request them.
Right.
You know, especially after they're approved.
Right.
But there's things that I still can't talk about, and I can't stand it because it's like, because you get fingers pointed at you, you know? Hey, you were part of this, you were part of that. And it's like, no, it wasn't, you know? You don't know what voice I had in executive session, and you know what? I can't even tell you what voice I had in executive session. It's a crummy way to do things, but it's there to protect people as well. Because if you were being investigated, you know, obviously you wouldn't want your name bounced around and volleyed around and stuff like that. So again, it's a double-edged sword, you know. So, but so we've got the show quiet covered. We've got lack of investment back into the school district. We know was continuing to spiral downward.
Right.
We've got parents that have reached out, okay, and we didn't have a student council advisor. I don't know if you guys knew anything about this. We didn't have a student council advisor, and there was a group of parents, and there are a core group of parents who are trying to get this wave to go in a different direction. And from what I was told, they met up at, I don't know if it was Knox Trail, I guess, this group of parents, and they offered to become a student advisor, and somebody got a hold of that information and went up there, and some verbal lashings or something to that effect.
Right.
You know, and there was something about a non-union, somebody, or a parent who's a known, what did Turtle Boy put? What did he put?
Anti-union.
Anti-union.
Anti-teacher, anti-union.
Can you, any idea what that has to do with anything with a group of parents getting together and trying to help?
That I don't understand.
That was one of the most inane things that I read in his report, and I'm like,
No, but, and I'm not trying to stick up for Turtle Boy because he can obviously do that for himself, but there are things that have been brought up that make you think that he didn't just pull this out of his hat. You know, he spoke to somebody in the know, somebody who has direct information. Like, for example, part of, you know, nobody knows exactly when it was said, but that if there was going to be another student sit-in, that superintendent was going to cancel the Thanksgiving Day football game. Now, do you think that Turtle Boy would just pull that out of his hat and say, "Oh, here, let's just make this up and throw it up online"?
I don't know who's feeding him. Who's feeding him the information?
Well, that's the beauty of Turtle Boy, is that all the information is anonymous for a reason. So there isn't backlash against people for just trying to get knowledge out to the public, and that's personally why I
had heard
support
that.
them.
I had heard that rumor too, but I had two people, one student.
Does that seem entirely
one parent.
unrealistic? That would happen?
I don't think. I think, you know, it was very possible. I think my opinion again, I think what the kids did for the 2 days out there was absolutely wonderful. The support they got from the drivers by and everything else was terrific. But you know, you don't see it now, so everybody says, "Oh, things must be hunky dory." Now to get to Turtle Boy, I treat Turtle Boy like Reggie Jackson. Sometimes he hits it out of the park, and sometimes he swings.
Exactly,
and misses.
and you don't take it
And
all.
that second article.
You don't take it as a gospel either. You read it and you make up your own opinion for yourself.
But that second article, you know, there was. I thought I was watching the Bad News Bears. I'm sorry. But the first one I thought was right on. And yes, it is not all on Dr. Crow, but a lot of it is.
Well, I mean, you can look at the things that have happened since she took over. And I mean, we can run down a list here of concerns that I'm only speaking for myself, but that I've heard quite a bit around town. I mean, the fact that they went through one assistant vice principal, the unassigned one, lasted 2 weeks. As soon as he got back from his trip with Dr. Crow to China, he quit without stepping foot in a classroom. Now, this is somebody that was hired directly by Dr. Crow. The next one lasted 2 months and walked. Yet again, someone else hired by Dr. Crow walks after 2 months, and they can't speak about what happened because they were forced to sign non-disclosure agreements. Now, is that standard policy in public schools that you have to sign non-disclosure agreements?
I can only tell you what I.
Through your-
I can
right,
only.
through
I can
your
only.
experience.
You have more experience in this than I do.
So I
I'm
had.
curious,
I had
is
to.
that-
I had to sign one.
But do you think a school employee would have to do that?
I can't answer that question. We don't know. Again, something transpired.
Something's exactly, and
So-
they just started now the third unassigned principal, which is weird too because that assistant reports directly to Dr. Crow. No one else. They don't have any input with the principals of the schools that they go to. Isn't that strange?
That is very strange.
I mean, and you
I
talk.
mean, like I said, we can work down the list here.
You talk about someone who gets a 5-year contract, but yet only hires principals for 1 year. What? You know, how do you get any continuity? How do you get any trust? How do you?
No, it
and I'm
sets a
not
tone.
talk-
It sets a tone right away that
And I'm not
you're
necess-
expendable.
I'm not talking about trust
Her
between
contract was.
Dr. Crow and the principals. I'm
Was-
talking
her
between
contract
the
was 5.
students.
Good. It was like
And-
4.5 years or something.
I'm talking about the students and the principal. They develop relationships. You know, a principal is there. I mean, I've never had a principal that, you know, did that. They sat in their hallowed halls of ivy and just didn't worry about it. But that was when I was growing up, probably when you were. They just sat there and every now and then, this is Mr. So-and-so and I have an announcement to make. Okay, fine. We know he exists.
Too much going on now.
But these were caring individuals. Now, love them or hate them. Love them or hate them. I applauded them. But all of a sudden to say, you've got 1 year and that's it? What do you develop in that situation?
From what I understood, they had to reapply for the job. That's what it was. They had to. I don't know why. Okay, they had to write. I don't know if it was an essay. I don't know if it was But they.
But
they
why
had
is
to-
it fair that they get 1 year and she gets 5?
I don't
Which
know.
most standard superintendent contracts are 3
3
years.
years.
Did the school committee even negotiate the years on the contract, or was it just like, oh,
I
here's
don't
5
know.
years, go
I can't
ahead?
help you on that one.
I don't know. I don't know. Again, we weren't.
Like I said,
privy-
I don't
we,
have-
We weren't sitting in that negotiation room, and I have no idea.
I really don't have any answers to a lot of the things I have here, but I think they're questions that need to be asked of the school committee and the superintendent.
Well, fire away.
Okay, well, jeez.
Well, we got about 5 minutes left, so if you want to read off a couple of those things,
I can just
and
use
then-
a
and
couple
then
as
what
examples.
I want to do is, before we sign off, I want to either we do this again and we continue on, or maybe 30 seconds or a minute where you guys think that maybe how we can change things, that type of thing. So if you've got a couple
I'd love
of-
to come back.
if
I don't know
you've got
about
a-
you,
if you're
Dan.
gonna-
I'd
if
love
you-
to come back.
Possibly. I can't comment right
Is there anything else there that really sticks out as far as
Well, it just seems to me there's a pattern of micromanaging. And that's all well and good, but there's much bigger issues that the district is facing that nobody's talking about, nobody's even looking at, like the prospect of a new high school. I mean, that's an urgency. There's no question. I mean, it's past the point where, like, oh, we should start thinking about doing something.
Well, the state does know that. And after we backed out of that, they said that if we got back into doing that, that they would move us up. So
Think about it this way. You saw, I'm sure you read the Turtle Boy article, and you saw the pictures from inside the school. Now, say you ran a business like that. Don't you think the Board of Health would probably come in and shut you down,
I have
or
been
at
a-
the very least give you large fines?
this is
But it's a
pu-
public school, so it's allowed?
listen, it's part of the problem, okay? It's part of the problem, and it's been like that for a long
But
time.
I sat there in the meeting in August when
There's a lack of accountability.
Kevin Hayes said, look, we got to make the push forward to start looking at the schools. And he also said in the same statement about how the school committee and the superintendent, which she said, yes, I agree, need to be more vocal with the public, getting information out there, and basically being more user-friendly to the taxpayers and the citizens. And we've pretty much seen the exact opposite of that happen.
You saw that at the workshop when they started talking about AP books.
All right, so let's do this. I'm not sure exactly where this is going to go. I don't even know if people are going to watch us.
Hopefully.
Okay, but I don't know. Give 30 seconds on what you'd like to see happen. Give us 30 seconds of what you'd like to see changed.
Let you fire first.
Just about everything. I mean, it's great
All
to
right,
see.
step one. What's step one?
Step one, just more community awareness. People need to start working together. For one, like you said, the ills of social media can be very
They're a killer.
destructive, very destructive. And people need to put personalities aside. Most of the people that I see on the social media pages, I don't know them personally. I just know them by what I read. And it's kind of hard not to think bad of some people. But people need to put it aside and be like, look, it doesn't matter. You can use the phrase, it's all about the kids, but it really is.
It's a phrase that doesn't mean anything.
You know,
But it truly is. I mean, the people of this town really need to step up because that's where the problem is going to be fixed. It hasn't been fixed in the current school committee or the previous school committees, even though some have tried their hardest. And with the current superintendent, I don't know if that's possible. I really hope it is, and I'm going to stay optimistic about it.
You're up.
Accountability and responsibility. That's all we want. We don't want the finger pointing. We don't want the finger pointing. What we want is we want somebody to step up and say, yeah, there's a problem. Let's fix it. Yeah, there's a problem. Let's work together. Are we going to see it with this school committee? I doubt it. Are we going to see it with Superintendent Crow? I doubt it. But you have an election coming up in May. Start making the change. You know, I saw something at the last workshop I haven't seen in any school committee meeting ever. There was actually a vote that wasn't unanimous. It's not binding, but it was a vote that wasn't unanimous. I've never heard a crowd get so excited by that.
All right, gentlemen. It's been 60 minutes of verbal volleyball back and forth. Listen, there's something wrong with our district, folks, and the only way that it's going to get fixed is if you guys become involved. And not just on social media. You're going to start showing up to school committee meetings. Whether or not you're heard doesn't matter. Be in the audience. Do something with your kids. Get involved in the local school things. We've got
That's an excellent.
December 1st is the next school committee meeting. Get involved with the local schools. Get involved with the parent-teacher organization, the PTA. You know, that's the only way it's going to get fixed, folks. That's it for the other side. Hopefully we'll see you maybe in another week or two, or if I can get these guys back. Thanks for watching.